So whichever you want.
Yagenda okuba
functionalities and how to approach different challenges and how to deal with certain things in UgandaEMR. So we thought it best that we would utilize such webinars to help spread out the information and retraining, more of retrainings to the bigger community without having to wait for just always the bigger conferences so that people can be able to learn. Okay, so having said that, we are going to kick into this webinar. And I would like to invite Solomon to jump in and straight and start with what do we have in the UgandaEMR 3.1.0. Solomon, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to take this opportunity also to welcome everyone to this, like someone said, first of the many technical interactions that we shall be having between the team at METS and also the implementers at the field. So as you are aware, we have released a new version of UgandaEMR that we have named or tagged 3.10. So 3.10 comes with as so of course, currently we live under the expectation that all of us have upgraded our systems to 3.04. And so much of the conversations we are going to be having may be focusing on drawing a comparison between what we had in 3.04 and 3.10. But of course, not forgetting that we've had other versions from 2.0 to around 3.00, which we tagged alpha recency. So in terms of the new features that we have for this version, which is 3.10, is we've added new clinical workflows. We have a few facilities here that are already doing TB. So we have provided for TB treatment and support for both retrospective and point of care. And that is depending on the new tools. So one of the things that we have in the new version is TB treatment support. And I would ask that whoever wants to start doing TB in the EMR, it would be important that you you upgrade to the most current version. Also, when you look at the new patient dashboard, we've added TPT status. So we had requests coming in terms of people wanted to see this particular patient, what is their TPT status? So were they never initiated? Have they started? If they started, when did they start? Have they stopped? If they stopped, when? So we've provided all of that information on the patient dashboard. Also, we've added the ability to restrict setting appointments on public holidays. Of course, currently we are dealing with the national public holidays. So we've looked at all the national public holidays because at least those ones are standard and are known. And we are ensuring that if someone is setting an appointment, you are always reminded that you cannot set an appointment on a day that is a public holiday. So days like Easter, Christmas, New Year's, Heroes, Independence Day, those have all been blocked. So that way it gives you a better planning, because we've had cases where someone is scheduled for an appointment, but when in actual sense, the facility won't be open on that particular day. Also, we limit the number of patients to be seen on a specific date. So facilities have, say, they will set a number. For example, we have facilities that see, say, 500 patients on a daily basis. So what we've done is that if you have set 100 or 200 to be your maximum number of people that can be seen on a particular day, what we are doing is that you cannot, so once you reach the 200 people, you are reminded that you've already reached your maximum number of patients. That way you cannot go beyond, that way you cannot schedule a patient when they will come to a facility and not receive the service. We have also included transfer in and transfer out forms. I don't want to spend so much time on this because it's one of the things that we are going to discuss, the new implementation of how we transfer in and transfer out clients, what happens to the encounters, what happens to the summary page, how are they updated, and things like that. So the issue of transfer ins and transfer out will be addressed in the subsequent conversations we are going to have here. We have also reviewed the DSD models. We have changed the duration, for example, of current regimen from 12 months to 6 months. And we have also provided for the ability for clinicians to determine whether the patient is stable or not. You realize that many people have had concerns about the way we implemented DSDM in the EMR vis-a-vis how it is implemented at the hospital. and we have made those changes to reflect the workflows as being carried out at the facility. So those revised the guidelines, because we've also incorporated some of the guidelines, so much of that work has been done in the new version. We have also added an option in pharmacy and dispensing, that is the ability to dispense drugs and non-regimen combinations, which was one of the most stressing things for pharmacists and indeed clinicians when we implemented 3.04 point of care, because we had the ability to dispense regimens, but pharmacists were saying when we are dispensing, we dispense drugs. So what we've provided for is an ability to split these regimen combinations into particular drugs. So right now, a pharmacist is able to dispense a drug individually and not a regimen. So that way, it is very easy for them to generate and to account for the drugs as they have been dispensed. We have also added a non-suppressed viral load form and also the HIMS TB client card. Like I said, we've done two of them. We've done retrospective and point of care. So TB, depending on which model fits your facility, those of you that are doing simpler point of care, we have an option for that. Those that are doing retrospective, we have an option for that. And those that are doing a merger between point of care and retrospective, depending on what fits your environment, we've tried to cater for that. We have added some reports. Some of them, you realize that previously we didn't have the 106A, that is 1A and 1B. So currently it is available. We request that you look at it and provide feedback. We have also added a report for people that have transitioned to DTG, because you realize there was a strategic shift to providing clients with DTG, and for M&E purposes, we've provided that report that in any particular period in time, you can easily ask for people that have transitioned to DTG. We've also provided the daily missed appointments report. Now, this report is different from the missed appointment report that was previously there, because the other one looked at the 7 days. Now, the 7 days, people are asking that, for example, I have a clinic today, and at the end of the clinic, I want to know how many people have not turned up on that particular day, as compared to waiting for a period of 7 days after the missed appointment. So that is what the daily missed appointment reports address, that once you have a clinic, at the end of that clinic, you can simply query the system and they bring you a list of people who are supposed to come on that day, but they actually did not come. We have also updated the TXML report. We had concerns about its accuracy and figures not matching up, but I think from the report that we are getting from the field, so far we are doing good. So currently, those are the reports that we have added. We also have worked on a few bug fixes. Remember when we released 3.04, there were a few things that we didn't see, say in development or even in testing. Or sometimes we, as developers, we simply didn't know that that's how the clinic flows. So we've added, for example, on the art summary page and the clinical assessment, if I'm to group them, the TPT and IP data was not being shown on edit of the forms. Those of you that have been on the field have seen this, that whenever you would go to edit data, ideally, those fields that had data should come back with that data, but previously the data would not come, and many people thought that the data was actually lost even when it was in the system. So we've made sure that once you've entered TPT data or IP data and it is already in the system, the moment you go to edit, that data is reflected back. So you already know what you currently have, and what you need to enter. It makes the editing easy. We've also added a text field for other medications dispensed, while essential medicines are limited to a drop-down. So in 3.04, we had a list of all essential medicines or all medicines that we thought were offered at a facility. But then we found out that we cannot declare all medicines that are provided at the facility. So the request came in that at least we provide a text field where someone can simply type in the medication provided, and we have done that. So now it is possible to dispense other medications. We've also added on patient registration, we were previously capturing only one patient number, phone number, but currently we capture the second and the third alternative numbers for cases of follow-up. We had cases of, I want to follow up a patient, but I have only one number registered, and the number that I have registered is off, for example. So from the field, people asked that please provide an opportunity to capture the second and the third alternative, which we have also done. In terms of point of care, we have provided, like I said, the TB workflow for both drug susceptible TB and drug resistant TB, which subsequently going forward, we shall discuss more in detail. Then patient flags, we've also added a patient flag for non-suppressed viral load message was not displaying for patients with less than 1,000 copies. Those of you, when you update, you will actually see it. We have also had comments coming in about reports in terms of the maternity and the ANC register. Somehow, somewhere, there were bugs of something is marked, but it does not display. This value is not the right value, which we have done. Now, we believe that the reports are, sorry, the registers are indeed fine. We've also added patient DSD models and dates of enrollment to almost all facility reports, actually to all facility reports. And this is important because then it allows us to know the current, to account for DSD models. It gives me an opportunity to know where the client belongs in terms of DSDM and things like that. So the request came in and we thought it important indeed that we should add DSD models to all facility reports. There was also an exponential increase in database size, which we have addressed also. 3.04 came with a lot of messages and notifications. But the new version will address that. Actually, you realize that the database size reduces significantly, because then we have pulled out all of those notifications away from the database. So you do not have an exponential increase in database size, which in some cases may end up consuming computer resources, which we know for some facilities are indeed very expensive. So those are some of the things that I can briefly talk about in terms of the new things that we've done with 3.0, with 3.10 that are a bit different from 3.04. But maybe to say it has been an upgrade. We have been fixing and we've been updating what we provided in 3.04, what we have in 3.10. In terms of installations, we've provided, when you look at our user manual, we have all those resources, people that need to upgrade their systems, to do new installations. When you go to our demo site, we have all those resources listed there, but we encourage people now to use the upgrade options for those that are upgrading that are already existing in UgandaEMR. It makes the process very simple and easy, because it's a matter of saying, I want to upgrade. You go to the upgrade script, you have your WAV file already downloaded, you put in a WAV file, and it is as simple as that. So we expect to be supporting 3.04 and 3.10. Currently, and indeed my colleagues will also add on this, we encourage all facilities that are running any 2.0 version or the like, anything that is actually below 3.04, we encourage you to upgrade your system such that you're on board. The challenge we've had is that we've had people asking questions that have been already solved in the new versions. So that's why we ask that whenever we release out a new version, it is important to upgrade and then ask questions depending on the new version. Otherwise, as the screen shows, our demo site is up. It is already updated with the new versions. Please feel free to visit them. Our user manual also has references to those resources on how to download them, how to get them, how do I upgrade, how do I use the installer, and things like that. Otherwise, allow me to say thank you for the audience, and I would like to take the responsibility back to Sam to guide us. Thank you so much. Sam, now is the time.
Okay, thank you, Solomon, for such a detailed explanation of our release. I would like to emphasize on the release support. Yes, we are going to be stopping to support the upgrade process of 1.x series. So between now and December, I should not expect to, we hope that we will work with you to ensure that the 1.x series are out. By February next year, we should have all facilities to 3.1 and 3.04 and above. So we do not expect any facility which will be running the 2.x series by next year in February. So that's when we are actually going to stop listening to anything about the 2.x series or the 1.x series. And we'll only be listening into the 3.1 and 3.04 support. Okay, as we keep on going about this webinar, kindly use the chat tool to help us, inform us, register your presence by telling us where you're coming from. All you just need to do is type in the organization or the facility you are coming in from in the chat group, and we'll be glad to see that. Thank you. Okay, let's talk about the actual technical topic for today.
Sam.
Yes.
There was a question about viral loads not displaying. I don't know if I can answer it now or we wait until the entire.
We will answer all the questions at the end of the discussions.
Okay.
Okay. So let's talk about the transfers. So we have previously had transfer ins and transfer outs, and people complaining about that. We can no longer, the EMR does not support multiple transfers of patients across the multiple transfers. Say a patient has gone out and the patient is coming back in the facility. So that we thought that we would introduce that functionality. Impressively, this has been available since 3.0.4, but we have improved it much better in 3.1.0, and we would like to have clear discussions about that. So when it comes to patient transfers, we understand that we have transfer ins and transfer outs. And when it comes to transfer ins, we do have two approaches to transferring in. We have patients who are actually transferring in for the first time at our facility. And then we have patients who always keep on coming back, especially when the patient has gone away. And for some reason, they come back to this facility. So what does that mean? It means that we need to cater for the ability for someone to go multiple times out and to come in multiple times. Okay, let's talk about the transfer in of patients, the newly transfer in of patients. So what does this mean? It means that this refers to a first time transfer in patient at a facility. So this patient has never been at this facility. You've never registered them at this facility, but actually you're transferring them in for the first time in the facility. So this is exactly the patient we are talking about in this one. So this patient has never been at this facility. This patient has been receiving care from another facility. And then we have the information of the patient. So where the information about this patient who is being transferred in? We understand that in the HIV care, there is a tool called the comprehensive care referral of a patient, where it's the information, the tool which is filled in as a patient is being transferred out from one facility, and this is the tool which you receive at the facility where you're going to transfer this patient in. So this particular tool is where that information which you have to use to transfer in a patient. Okay, so how do we deal with the transfer in of a patient? We, first of all, of course, there is the logging in bit. You have to log in into UgandaEMR. After logging into UgandaEMR, you have to you have to create a patient. Yes, if at all this is a new patient, you have to register them. After registering them, then you have to go to their patient's dashboard. So when you go on there, I would like to start from going I would like to start with the go to the patient's dashboard point and then downwards, because the registration process and all that is really very clear. And if at all it's not very clear, we have videos on YouTube, and also that is documented in our user manual on how to register a patient. But in case it's not clear, also we have YouTube videos which show you how to register a patient. You can search that up later. You can just look out for UgandaEMR channel on the YouTube. You'll be able to have that. So let's look at the patient's dashboard. So on the patient's dashboard, we usually have on the right-hand side, we have a section called General Actions, and that will have an icon called Transfer In of Patients. So this particular one will land you to a page where you have a huge Transfer In page, and then you have an option for refer patient. So on this one, on this refer type, you actually choose transfer in. When you select transfer in on this refer type, you will be able to have a full detail page which indicates the different information, like the previous viral loads, the baseline regiment, the current regiment, the previous the baseline CD4, and all that information piled up. So that information will avail that it will unhide all that information, and then you'll be able to fill in. I would like to emphasize on mainly two key informations, two key details of information which you have to fill in. There is the baseline history of the baseline at regiment, and then the date when the patient started at. So you remember that these actually are very key when it comes to computing reports, when it comes to also taking care of a patient. So when you fill in the, when you select the baseline regimen, of which that one you're going to get it on the comprehensive transfer form, then also you fill in the at start date. Also, you have to factor in the current regimen. So yes, even if the current regimen is exactly the same as the baseline regimen, you also have to reflect that the baseline regimen is the same as the current regimen by specifying it there. But sometimes it's different. Sometimes actually you'll find that the current regimen it's different from the current regimen is actually different from the baseline regimen, the regimen which a patient ever started on AT with. So you also factor that in. So when you fill that in and you fill in the rest of the information like CD4, viral load, and all that information, you will continue to saving the patient encounter. So as soon as you save the patient encounter, these are the things which will happen. First of all, it's going to save, as soon as you save the transfer in encounter or the transfer encounter, these are the things which are going to happen. First of all, it's going to create that transfer in encounter for you. And secondly, it is going to create a summary page, a full-blown summary page with the baseline regiment information filled in, and also the current regiment information filled in for you. So you don't have to go back to create the summary page because it's already created for you. But maybe what will need to be done is to go back to the summary page and maybe edit and ensure that you can have the AT number, the patient clinic number which you have given at the facility, but mainly to have created for you the encounter. Okay, let me carry on to transfer out. Why am I moving from not returning patients and then moving out to transfer out? So let's talk about transfer out, then after I continue to the patient who possibly comes back. So let's look at the patient who possibly comes back. Sorry, let's look at the transfer. So for a patient who you're transferring out, we understand that this patient is one who is in care at your facility. There are several reasons why they might be moving, like a new job or seeking for better care. Let's say they have complications at this facility and maybe you're transferring them to a facility which can deal with those complications. Let's say you're in a health center 3 and you cannot deal with certain complications such as TB, certain types of TB. There is drug resistance TB, and then you need to transfer this patient out to a hospital which deals both with the drug resistance and at the same time HIV. Oh, also there can be others whereby you just have a patient who is bedridden and maybe you're like, let me just transfer this one to the ISS clinic Mulago, since they deal so much with that compared to dealing with compared to when I don't have even beds to admit this patient. So also the patient must be in care at your facility. That's clear, and they must be in the EMR, of course. The patient the transfer out can be carried out on the clinical assessment page. So so in order for us to be able to transfer out a patient, like I said, we have been able to move the transfer out information or features from the summary page to the encounter page. So what do you do when it comes to transferring out a patient? So on this one, on the clinical assessment page, you have to go to the tests, investigations, and ESDM tab for the retrospective users or the data people who are just going to be entering the retrospective approach. But for the clinicians, there is a next course of actions where you deal with appointments, and also where that's the exact same place where you deal with transfers. So that's where exactly the transfer out of a patient is for you. So in that tab, all you have to do when you get that information, the transfer out section looks like this. You should be seeing it at the bottom. So that one, you have to just simply check the box of transfer out, and that will enable the transfer date and where the patient is being transferred to. So when that happens, you select the date of transfer, and also you determine the location where you want to send this patient to. Please note that the date of transfer should be exactly the same as the encounter which you're using to transfer out a patient, because we expect that past this encounter ahead, you should not be able to do anything. Or, yeah, so you make sure that the exact encounter date is exactly the same as the transfer date. And actually, it will warn you about this. It will warn you about especially when you do not have, it will tell you that the transfer out date is not exactly the same as the encounter date. So then after that, after you filled in all that, and you filled in all the rest of the information which you would like to do, all you have to do is save the encounter. What will happen with this one? It will transfer out the patient, and it will create it will transfer out a patient, and also it will create a transfer out encounter to ensure that the patient is fully transferred out. Okay, so that's how I transfer. So mainly that's it about transferring out a patient. Let's talk about the a returning patient, a patient who is coming back from the health facility, who has ever been at this facility, but was transferred out, and maybe they are coming back into care at this facility. So the process is exactly the same as the transfer in, but the difference in that is just about that the difference is in what is in the result. So the result of the transfer, when you choose the referral, when you click on the referral and then you select transfer in again, the only difference is that the HIV summary page that was existing being created, but it will go ahead and update the information on the summary page of the latest transfer in information. Let's say the current regimen, which is being transferred in by this patient. So that's mainly it when it comes to the transfer of patients. We would have loved to do a demo, but I don't think we will have the time. But feel free to reach out to us in case you want further detail on this. We have a few minutes to go, and we would like to utilize this for questions before we look out for the new topic, which will be, before we start voting out for the new topic, which we'll be addressing next. Thank you. So if at all you want to in case you have any question, kindly put up your hand, and then we'll see it, and then we will select you. You can use the option of putting up your hand, and then we will select that. Okay, but before we go that, let's first look at the questions that actually have already come in the chat. We have a couple of them. Let me just shuffle through them. And there is a fix that we have already built, and we will be communicating an approach of how we are disseminating that. So how, then there is a question, I wish we could fix the problem of extracting data with a differentiated service delivery model. Peter Amuguriat, I'm going to ask you to actually unmute and explain this further so that we can address it. Is Peter still on?
Thank you. When you extract data from UgandaEMR, clients who have more than one, who have been enrolled in more than one SDM model, come with different enrollment dates. So sometimes it is confusing to know which is the most current SDM model to take. So I was just requesting if it is possible to, when you are extracting, to bring only one current SDM model enrollment date. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter, for that. I believe we might have a webinar on that to show people how actually to extract the SDM models on cohort builder, but we have provided for a couple of reports which can help to extract. But we will it's a potential webinar topic which we might go ahead and address. Yes, so kindly keep the questions coming in on the chat, because that's where we're going to be having the questions. Okay, I have a question from Joyce that says, if the transfer out date should be as the same as the encounter date, won't this affect the patients? Won't this be affecting patients who get lost on the follow-up? They only come to pick their transfer out laters. Okay, so yes, if at all a patient comes back to pick their transfer out, you can always actually go back on the last date on the encounter date when a patient is on the encounter date when the patient actually you last saw them, and then actually you update that as their transfer out date. Another question. Now the facilities are submitting analytics. Now that the facilities are submitting analytics data, could METS create a platform to share data with IPs so that it can be used in monitoring and tracking? That's from Nasif IDI. We shall get to that. We shall get to that very, very soon. Okay. Another question is, what happens to the lost clients that after tracking them, you realize they are self-transfer outs, given the fact that the date of transfer out should be exactly the same as the encounter dates? Yes, This also goes back to the same response which I had. So yes, if at all you find that the patient is a self-transfer out, on the date when they were transferred out, on the date when they were transferred out is on the last date when they were seen, that's where you go back and actually effect the transfer out so that you're no longer tracking them as lost to follow up. Eno Sande Kwezi is saying, what plans for streamlining HMIS reports generation, automated reports are different when generated by cohort builder. Is there a plan for METS to coordinate an appropriate generation of reports, perhaps a webinar? Yes, so Eno Sande Kwezi, that's a potential webinar topic which we shall also have, and we'll deal with that. Okay. Hello, Samuel. How do you plan to address the silent transfer outs since they never happen on the same encounter date? This I've already, I think, addressed it. Transfer all the data in, transfer out, set during the extraction, but the new one doesn't bring out this data. It increased in, I don't know whether this was in case transfer out facilities for research. I'm going to ask Ssevvume to actually clarify on this. It's not so clear. Hello, is Ssevvume still there? Okay, I'll skip that. There is another option to update the transfer out from summary under treatment interruption. Is it right to use it? No. Please do not, the only transfer out options at the moment in 3.1.0 that we have at the moment on the encounter page. Kindly use the ones on the encounter page, because that one will give you much more better results than the one on the summary page. Thank you.
Hello, Sam. Hello, just another clarification. A treatment interruption is not a transfer. A treatment interruption just means that the treatment has been stopped for some reason. So it's not a transfer. That doesn't mean you've been transferred. It just means the treatment has been interrupted, either for toxicity or other issues. So that it's not a transfer.
Hello, Samuel. Sorry we joined in late. We are currently upgraded to 3.0. However, we noticed that viral load results no longer show. Yes, I'm going to, I'm going to ask Stephen to talk about it on the plan of actually ensuring that, the plan of how actually we're going to distribute out the fix for that. Is it possible, there's another question here, is it possible to add another patient summary in, in the section for referrals for cases of OVC, referrals, and others? Thanks. Please note that UgandaEMR always accepts one summary page. We don't have multiple summary pages of patients. Double summary pages mean that those will be looked at will be looked at as two patients. So we don't do 2 summary pages. Then Gordon says that TXML seems to have issues for numbers, for the loss to follow up after being on treatment for 3 months. Close to figure, report on the TX current. We'll look into that. Then the previous version only permits editing existing identifiers. This is from Gordon Steele. We'll talk about that, Gordon. So hello, Samuel. How do we capture the exposed infant, especially those from mother baby care points? Thanks. This is HP. I see someone being called HP, but I don't know exactly what their name are. And actually, this is Carol. So that's also another potential. That's also another potential webinar. So that's also another potential webinar if I told someone they don't know how to capture exposed infant information. So that's not addressed for this particular webinar, but we shall deal with it. So I'm going to invite Stephen to talk about the missing viral loads on the dashboard, and then after we can vote in for our next webinar. Stephen?
Yeah, what we're planning to do is to issue a. Hello, do you hear me?
Stephen, we can hear you.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to issue a new release, because we discovered that only after releasing 3.1.0 that something had changed in the OpenMRS platform. So we shall be releasing a new 3.1.1 probably early next week to actually address this issue.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Okay, so let's look at our next potential webinar topics.
Sam,
Yes, please.
maybe before, there is a question of how can I edit name or add name to an existing client in the system.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can be simply addressed by that question has been asked by Simon Wamanya. So Simon Wamanya, to answer the question, when you search a patient, the new system gives you 3 actions. It gives you an action for queuing the patient, which is the point of care workflow. It gives you an action for the patient dashboard, which is the retrospective workflow, but it also gives you an option for going to the registration summary of the patient. So that is where you will need to go. And when you look at the registration summary, there is a tab for identifiers. So in those identifiers, that is where you have the national ID. And that is where you can provide the national ID from, provided that the client was already registered. There is also an action, a general action for adding fingerprint. So for those that are adding fingerprints and also using national IDs, you can use that workflow. Also to briefly answer the person that asked about EIDs, we have an EID card that is provided for under MCH. So you will simply look at the card, provided that the clinic is MCH and that patient you've just registered is below 2 years. That is, that patient is still an exposed infant. You will see the card. There is a summary page for EIDs and then the encounter page for EIDs. Then finally, someone said that the inbuilt reports are a bit missing in terms of the inbuilt reports and those generated by Cohort Builder. We would appreciate if we get this feedback, say on the on the group and tell us, for example, which report you're looking at, how are you looking at, such that we coordinate easily. For example, TX-CAL, we had issues with TX-CAL and we had a conversation with the person that raised the issue. And now the feedback we are getting is that it is accurate. So it is important that you simply do not say the reports are not accurate. It is important that you provide us with that detail, because then it is going to help us improve the existing. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Solomon. Okay, we've run short of time, and I don't see us sit down to have a proper discussion around the next topic. What we are going to do is that we are going to send out a form with potential, whereby you will submit in the topics which you'd like us to address in the next upcoming webinar. And then we will see how actually we can deal with that. So having said that, I would like to thank you all for coming into this webinar. I know there are some people who have been locked out because of the limit of the participants which we have. We have a limit of 100 at the moment, but we are looking at improving this. We thank you all for attending. Please look out for the form on the EMR group and on the EMR mailing list, so that you can fill it up and then get back to us. Thank you all for webinar. I hope it was beneficiary to everyone. Thank you. Please, you can leave at leisure at the moment, but as far as we know, this has been ended. Also, we'll be uploading this on our YouTube channel, and then we'll always keep on uploading these webinars on our YouTube channel. So thank you, everyone. You can leave at leisure. Thank you.
Thank you, Samuel. Very good.